we've done this training before, and I think it's something that it just like Angelo said, repetition is what's going to help us get these words kind of downloaded, and technology and just being able to listen to things over and over again. Just these podcasts I've been able to listen to for the last year or so over and over again, I think has really improved my game in terms of the words I'm using. So I really appreciate the direction that we're headed in here, and I love this. I don't know about all of you, but we need to have a lot more people on this webcast every Wednesday night. So let's get started here. And again, just taking off where Angelo had left it there, that this is really the setting the stage for the first client onboarding a process, the first the FS1 or the data collection appointment. And sometimes you'll be in this appointment by yourself if you have a personal prospect. So sometimes you are going to have to be the trainee and the trainer all rolled up into one. Our system really lends itself to having a trainee and a trainer at the same time. I think that's when we have the most effectiveness, when we have the trust and credibility relationship. And so I'll be speaking on this from that viewpoint. And if you're someone who would be a trainee in this process, I think that you could probably see 3 or 4 of these data collection appointments before you're fully able and capable to go in the field yourself and train someone else, at least to gather the data. And so Angelo's absolutely right when he says that if you can do a good data collection, that is the key for closing business. In fact, if you don't do a good data collection, it'll be very difficult for you to close business. So this first appointment is actually more important than when you make your recommendation, because if you haven't helped the client connect the dots in their mind as to why you're going to be able to provide the best solution for them, and you haven't created enough value in this first appointment, then the second one may fall on deaf ears. So let's just get started first with just preparation before we get to the client's house. And by the way, I've been doing a lot of appointments lately with trainees on using Zoom. Okay, so this is kind of at some point in the future might be considered old school. I am still a fan though of meeting face to face with clients. I think at least one time or 2 times meeting face to face with clients. It has tremendous value. There's certain communication that is not transmitted very well necessarily at this point through a webinar. But if you've already met them and they know what you're all about, you've shook their hand, you looked at them in the eye, I think that you could do a lot of this over a Zoom like we're doing now. And a lot of the business I closed, most of it this year has been through that medium. So, but let's say we're going to the house, and you're the trainee. One way you want to make sure you confirm the appointment, and the best way to do that, of course, never. Hey, you're still free tomorrow, right? That's like the kiss of death. If you want to have a lot of appointments cancel on you, that's how you should confirm. But if you want to confirm in a very proactive, assumptive way, then what's written here, hey, looks like a trainer and I could mention their name. Looks like Angelo and I could arrive about 10 to 15 minutes early tomorrow. Is that okay with you, or you just want to keep the same time at 6 p.m.? So that's a great way to confirm a meeting. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, sure, come early. A lot of times 6 is fine, and that'll confirm it up. Now on your way there, whenever possible, it's great to drive together. Sometimes with geography, it's not possible to do that. What I would do is just meet somewhere close by that you can arrive together, and for really two reasons. One is so you can go over, review the do's and don'ts, and just kind of help them practice their intro and just have a pre-game discussion about what you're going to be going over as the trainer. but also just this from a psychological standpoint, when the client or potential client is seeing you drive up in the trainee's car, the trainee's taking you to see their friend. You're not taking the trainee to see their friends. And that's a big distinction. So what are some of the things you're going to talk about? You're going to practice how you're going to introduce them. And it should be pretty simple to do that as a trainee. It's and by the way, what do you review also? I'll cover that in a second. What do you review is how do you want to control the environment? You want to make sure the trainee knows, look, if there's kids running around, that's going to anything that's going to disrupt the client from receiving the message is going to be a problem, and that's the trainee's job actually. So if it's the TV's on, the trainee's got to turn it off or tell the client to do that. That's where the trust is, right? If the kids are running around, maybe go take them, play with them someplace, right? You probably know the kids. When you walk in the house, you don't let the prospect dictate being too casual and sitting at the couch in the living room where no one ever sits. But we want to sit at the kitchen table for the simple reason we just might need to spread out here, and it'll be a little easier to see everything, right? So those are some of the coaching that you'd give the trainee and on the way over. Once you're there, the trainee is going to introduce the trainer just by saying, hey, this is my friend Angelo. I'm real happy to bring him because they specialize in working with fill in the blank. So if it's clients who are pre-retirees, then they'd say something. People going through transition into retirement, they're an expert in that, and people like yourself basically, and I'm really happy to have them. If you forget all that, then just say, hey, trainer, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, right? So make it as simple as possible. The trainee's job is really in that first part is to do that introduction, but also, facilitate Mozone, right? Usually the trainer is going to be pretty good, as many of you on this call are trainers as well. And sometimes you're a trainee and sometimes you're a trainer, right? But facilitate the Mozone, and the trainer usually can pick out a couple things to make reference to, and really just that rapport session. I'm not going to take a ton of time on that. Would be 5 to 10 minutes. When it starts getting to the point where it's the conversation starts slowing down about surface things, basic things like normal stuff we talked about, right? Talk about family, occupation, recreation. Once you start whittling down, then the trainer usually I would then say, well, anyway, I don't want to take up all your time tonight. Why don't we share a little bit about what we're going to be doing, and that's where you could really start to get into your infomercial, right? So, hey, just thanks for your time, and I'm working with the trainee, right? I'm working with a trainee. I know they contacted you recently, and I'm glad we finally had a chance to visit. Before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about myself. And when you're doing this is not supposed to be like a biography of your history, right? Because they don't really care. They actually don't care that much about. You just want to know who you are, and so keep it clear, concise, and relevant, and quick. So if you're a new person and you don't have a ton of background yet, you could just lean on the office environment. Hey, look, I work in a branch office that really specializes in helping people, young families like you who are in accumulation towards your financial future, or people who are looking to transition and into from a working life to being in retirement. And we're really passionate about the continuous learning environment that we have, and I really looking forward to meeting with you tonight. Something like that. So you don't have to have 20 years of experience to come in and have credibility, right? Now, if you are experienced and a specialist, and if you're an SMD, you're probably already specializing in, you pretty much specialize in a lot of different things. But again, it's whatever their situation is, that's what that's probably what you're good at. I say, look, I've been in the financial wellness industry for 21 years, and I'm really passionate about helping families really have a bridge plan from from their working years into their retirement years, and really just helping them uncover some blind spots they may not be aware of as we have a game plan for you to have a wonderful retirement. So that would be something I might say, right? Depending on again, who's in front of me. But so the most important thing there is whatever it is that you share, it's no right or wrong answer. Just make sure it's the thing you're passionate about, and it shouldn't take longer than, like I just said, 30 seconds to do that. Okay. Now, the next phase, and that's phase one. So phase one is that introduction. Okay. Phase two of this meeting is a very important and quick part, and that's the transition. Okay. So the transition is really asking their permission for two things. And every time that you, by the way, have a chance to have integrity, meaning that you do what you say you're going to do, and you do it, right? You say you're going to do, and you follow through on it. Every time you have a chance to do that, you increase the trust level, is what you do. And so whether it is, of course, being on time is the first opportunity you had to do that. And if you're 5 minutes late even and you didn't call, or something just silly like that, which is just, you're already digging yourself out of a hole because you never have another chance to make a first impression. So same thing with this. Hey, before we get started, I just want to know how you're doing on time. I'm going to need about 45 minutes or so. Are you okay with that? And they say, yeah, that should be fine. 45 minutes. Now, if you go an hour and a half, you already broke kind of the rule that you said up front, right? Unless they're, windbags and they love to talk the whole time, right? Maybe you can't control that too much. But you want to stick with as much as possible with the time you said. And this shouldn't take much longer than that. We've already been there probably 15 minutes at this point, okay? And then the next question is, hey, look, I found that in order to really provide the best value for you, I need to ask some questions. And some people can find it a bit personal. I just, like, for example, how old are you? How much money do you make? How much money do you have? So before we get going, is there anything I need to steer clear of that might be sensitive to you? Now, if someone says, yes, there is, that could be a red flag already, okay? Or it could be that their relationship with the trainee is such that they don't want to disclose that information in front of them. And you should, as a trainer now, you should be kind of picking up on those cues and even say, look, this is private information you're going to share. I know you have a relationship with Johnny over here. Look, if he needs to go downstairs while we take that information down, then let's just do that so you're more comfortable. And see how they respond. They may say, yeah, send them downstairs, play with the kids. Or they may say, no, I have no problem with it. 90% of the time they say, yeah, there's nothing, that we need to steer clear of. Now, by getting that permission, that should automatically relieve on you some of those. Sometimes we're taking the information, right? We're collecting that data. We're asking those sensitive questions, and we get a little bit nervous about doing that because it's outside of our comfort zone. Not too often in the regular world do we walk around asking people, hey, how much money do you make? Hey, what do you got in your 401k? I mean, we don't do that normally. So we have to, again, it's also how you view yourself. Do you view yourself as a professional? Do you view yourself as kind of the financial doctor who can ask them about, any kind of health issue that they have? It would be the same thing, but we're talking finances. So we have to view ourselves that way. And then once you do that, you'll have no problem, especially that you've gotten their permission. So then the last thing I would do is set expectation for that meeting. So if it's the first meeting, I say, look, tonight is all about you. I really just want to get a chance to meet you. Have you meet me and see if we could work together, see if this could be a good match. Tonight, I'm going to be gathering some information and just taking really just a snapshot of where you're at financially and finding out what your goals are, finding out where you want to be. And then I'm going to take that information back with me. I'm not going to make any recommendations tonight, but I'll take it back with me, do my due diligence, and then build a bridge plan for you to come back with those recommendations the next time that we get together. Does that sound fair enough? A good place to start? And so that would be how I'd introduce maybe the first meeting. Before every meeting after that, I'm going to still say the same thing, right? I'm still going to set the expectation for that meeting, and just it helps people get clear in their mind, what we're going to be covering and what they could be prepared for mentally. So now we're going to get into the gather section here, okay? So when you sit down with someone, I'm just going to pull up, and by the way, all you have to do to get this form is you go to Business Building on Demand, and you go to the form section. I love how this has been organized here. It's a very handy tool to get a lot of different things that we need. And just go to Financial Strategy, pull it up, and there you go, right? So when you're filling this out, this is you could print this out. If you can do it in color, make it look nice, it would probably be worth an extra 10 cents. Just, probably a copy of a copy of a copy isn't as professional as you'd want to present yourself, right? So, but this first part here is just taking information, and this is like from the Department of Redundancy department, right? Because you probably know some of this stuff already. You may not remember sometimes their whole name or whatever, right? So I would just ask, can you just please give me the legal spelling of your name, right? And then write that down. Date of birth. You don't know that. I really don't usually ask for the Social Security number in the first meeting. I don't see that there's a need for that. Some people may disagree with that in the first meeting until I'm going to recommend something. But you know what their address is already, so you could kind of skip that. But when it comes to like the phone number, I would just say, I ask the numbers, but then I'd put a check mark. Which of these numbers is the best way to get a hold of you? And then you just put a little check next. Usually it's a cell phone. Then their email, and then I'd say, what's your preferred method of communication? So some people, they only want to email. Some people, text is fine. So, and you got to be careful about texting, right? You can't really text, especially if your securities license, anything regarding their planning. You can text for setting up appointments and things like that. But as far as communication, email or phone, texting for just logistical things, right? And so that's that first part. Then I say, so let's get started and just share. The first part here is just getting an idea of who you are and what's really important to you at this stage. So tell me, and I'll just ask open question at this point. What do you think the biggest thing that we could help you with is, right? Because they had us come there for a reason, probably, right? And maybe it's something that they have as a need that is in front of their face, but there's probably a bunch of latent needs that they're not even aware of that they have, right? But I just want to see what they think their needs are financially and what their goals are. And this is where you just let them talk. And I like letting people talk in this section and just taking mental notes. In fact, I'll write notes down right here in this section as they're talking. I say, do you mind if I take notes on what you're saying? Which they appreciate. And so after we kind of go a little bit back and forth to find out who they are and what are the major things, I will just go back myself and say, so what I heard you say is that you're looking to buy a home in the next 2 years. What I heard you say is you have a real interest in paying off your credit cards, or your student loans is kind of this big albatross that's hanging over your head. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Well, what I heard you say is maybe talking to someone closer to retirement, that you'd like to be in a position to exit the workforce within the next couple of years. And you make sure that all your ducks in a row. So I'm going to just put a check mark next to those things with maybe a little note next to it. Okay. And so I'm going to take a good chunk of time talking about this. And this is not hokey. This is actually talking about goals and dreams is something that, guess what? They probably don't do. A lot. And you ask them about, hey, have you thought about retirement, or what's your goal when you want to do that? I mean, I've talked to couples that are, 5 to 10 years away from what you might think is retirement age. And they look at each other like, when do you want to retire? I don't know. When did you want to retire? I mean, they clearly haven't even talked about it. So what kind of value are you about to add to that relationship? it's huge. So, and they just got back from a long day of work probably. And so you don't want to dive right into debt and things that are difficult for them to, face. So let's talk about this in a way that is, hey, my goal here is to help you achieve these things. Okay. And so then I'll say, so there's really 6 steps to financial planning. And I'm going to go through step by step with you as we gather this information. Okay. And you could review it ahead of time. You could just say, step 1 is increasing our cash flow. Then we're going to talk about managing debt, having a good emergency fund, making sure that your financial interests are protected and your economic value is protected. And then talking about that, that retirement plan and what that looks like. And finally, make sure that you have, an estate that gets to get passed down to the people you love, your children, and not Uncle Sam, your least favorite uncle, right? So, and also I should mention, I get all the kids up here, kind of going back here, get all their just don't write the kid down, their age. You want to talk about their children. If you want to have a person kind of get on their good side, right? Talk about their kids in Mozone. I mean, that's just kind of an obvious one maybe, but also if they're younger, what their goals are for them to go to college. That's where you already kind of know that they probably have that as one of their goals, right?